Chapter 1. Just because he was jealous that I was the salesman of the year, my girlfriend's manipulative assistant photoshopped the project proposal I'd spent a year preparing into the client's funeral photo. The partnership was canceled on the spot, and I became the laughingstock of the entire company for letting a sure thing slip through my fingers. But not only did my girlfriend, Victoria, not punish her assistant, Ethan, she slapped me instead. He's severely nearsighted and has bad eyesight. It's not like he was trying to sabotage you. Besides, the company is about to go public. What's one small project? I think a few successful deals have gone to your head. This will take you down a peg before you get too arrogant. You should be grateful, but Victoria seemed to forget that this small project was the very top-tier deal she was planning to use for the IPO, the one she was willing to risk her entire fortune to secure. Soon the company's IPO plans would be shattered. Victoria would face a broken capital chain from the canceled project, losing both her reputation and her fortune. In the conference room, I watched as Victoria shielded Ethan, and I quietly put away the backup plan I had prepared. If she didn't even care about this project, why should I bother? With that thought, I stopped trying to explain myself. Instead, I stood up, smiled, and extended a hand to Ethan. Miss Summers is right. It's just a small project. I was overreacting. The moment I finished speaking, the conference room fell silent. Everyone stared at me, their eyes filled with shock and confusion. After all, the entire company knew that I, the top salesman, was famous for my strong principles and had zero tolerance for corner cutting. Even if it was Victoria herself who made a questionable decision, I would point it out without hesitation. Now, Ethan had made a colossal mistake, and I was the one choosing to apologize. My colleagues started whispering amongst themselves. Did the sun rise in the west today? The great sincere Clark is actually apologizing to someone? No way. When did a prickly pear like him learn to be so diplomatic? They had no idea. It wasn't that I had learned diplomacy. It was that my heart was dead. Before, I didn't care when Victoria criticized me in public or when my colleagues gossiped behind my back, because I knew that, in her heart, she loved me. This company was the culmination of 5 years of our blood, sweat, and tears. These minor frictions were just small bumps on the road to a beautiful future. But now, when I looked into Victoria's eyes, I couldn't see a single trace of love for me, only blatant favoritism for Ethan. I suddenly understood that I was no longer in her future. True love was what Victoria showed Ethan, unconditional protection, not the blind, indiscriminate scolding she directed at me. Seeing me so cooperative, Victoria was clearly stunned for a moment. Then she lifted her chin and said smugly, "That's more like it. Of course, don't worry. I'm not an unreasonable person. I know how to be fair." Since Ethan lost the deal due to his mistake, his punishment will be forfeiting this month's 50% perfect attendance bonus. $50? The number made me laugh out of pure anger. The project I had painstakingly prepared for a whole year, into which the company had invested nearly $10 million in manpower and resources, was now ruined because of Ethan's petty jealousy, and his punishment was a measly $50. Was she trying to shoo away a beggar? My laughter instantly made Victoria's brow furrow. "Sincere, what are you laughing at? You're happy to see Ethan suffering, aren't you?" He didn't do it on purpose at her words. Ethan perfectly timed a bow of his head, his shoulders trembling slightly. He looked like a pitiful child who had done wrong but didn't dare to defend himself. A wave of nausea washed over me. With acting skills like that, keeping him as a mere assistant was a waste of his talent. Seeing my silence, Victoria seemed to take it as confirmation, and her voice grew louder. "Besides, he's a recent graduate. It's not easy for him, coming to a big city all alone to make a living. Are you going to make him pay hundreds of thousands in compensation? How can your heart be so cruel? What grudge do you have against him that you want to destroy a young man's future?" Her words rained down on me like a bucket of filthy water. But she seemed to have forgotten that this was Ethan's basic duty as an employee. A man in his 20s is an adult. He should have learned to stand on his own 2 feet. not expect people to constantly clean up the messes he makes. And perhaps Victoria herself hadn't realized it, but her attitude toward Ethan had long surpassed a normal professional relationship. Before I could speak, Ethan suddenly dropped to his knees in front of me, his eyes welling up with tears. "Sincere, I know you must be upset. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. I deserve whatever punishment the company gives me." Watching his hypocritical performance, my stomach churned. He was the one who courted disaster, and now he was playing the victim. Everyone understood this simple fact, but Victoria, of course, did not. She rushed over to help him up. "Ethan, get up," but Ethan stubbornly shook his head, crying even louder. "Vicky, I'm sorry. I was so stupid. I caused so much trouble for the company. I'll take full responsibility. I'll borrow the money if I have to and cover the losses. If Sincere doesn't forgive me, I'll never get up." This was his idea of taking responsibility. This was pure emotional blackmail, designed to put me on the spot and make me the bad guy no matter what I did. I was about to expose his vile act. "Ethan, we're both men. Why put on a show? Can you afford to pay?" "This project." Before I could finish, a sharp slap landed squarely on my face. I saw Victoria glaring at me, her eyes filled with a hatred so intense it was as if she wanted to devour me whole. "Still using the project as an excuse? Sincere Clark, do you have a conscience? He made one tiny mistake, and you want to drive him to his death. The way I see it, in your current state, you are no longer fit to be a shareholder in this company." Chapter 2. With that slap, the entire conference room fell silent. All eyes turned to me. Feeling the stinging pain on my cheek, I thought back to Victoria's accusation and let out a self-deprecating laugh. She asked if I had a heart? Shouldn't she know better than anyone? 5 years ago, I gave up an overseas offer from a major tech firm, sacrificing my chance to become a rising star in the industry, just to help her save the company her parents had left her. The black mark of breaking my contract got me relentlessly slandered by competitors and blacklisted by the industry. My future was ruined. Back then, she had clung to me, crying her eyes out, saying she was sorry and that she would spend the rest of her life with me. She said her company would be my company, and that half of every dollar she earned would be mine. For 5 years, I poured my heart and soul into the business, finally bringing it back from the brink of death and making her the youngest female CEO in the industry. And now she was asking if I had a heart? She hit me, forced me to apologize, and now wanted to take back my shares, all for a recent graduate assistant? That slap completely shattered the last shred of illusion I had about her, and it severed our 5-year relationship. In any case, the project that was supposed to be the company's saving grace had been destroyed by Ethan. Who would want shares in a company on the verge of bankruptcy anyway? With that thought, I pulled a blank share transfer agreement I had prepared earlier from my pocket and threw it on the table in front of Victoria. Fine, a perfect excuse to kick me out. Give all the shares to your precious Ethan that way. I won't have to be a third wheel, interrupting you two being all lovey-dovey at the office. My voice was icy, devoid of any warmth. Victoria's face turned ashen, her eyes blazing with furious flames. "Sincere Clark, don't push your luck. Don't forget, I am the CEO of this company, and you are just my subordinate." Stop with the sarcastic remarks, she roared hysterically, like a lioness that had been provoked. I watched her fuming and sneered inwardly. Only now did I realize how terribly wrong I had been. To think I had taken a woman's empty promises as my life's mission. But luckily it wasn't too late. Without the company, the funds and skills I had accumulated over the years were more than enough for me to start my own studio and carve out a niche in this industry. As for her precious assistant offending the client, the subsequent project cancellation, and the collapse of the IPO plan, what did any of that have to do with me, an outsider? I had no obligation to remind her that the project Ethan destroyed was the big one she was banking on, nor did I have any duty to help her salvage it. With that, I turned to leave. Just then, Ethan, with his usual hypocrisy, tried to grab my arm, wanting to say something more. "Sincere, don't be rash. You're a company veteran. Before he could finish, I shoved him away and walked out of the conference room without a backward glance. Stepping out of the company's cold glass doors, the biting wind felt like knives on my face. I rubbed my frozen hands and stuck them into my coat pockets for warmth, only to feel two slightly crumpled pieces of paper. They were tickets to a concert by Victoria's favorite singer. I had planned to give them to her as a surprise after the deal was sealed. But now, it seemed this surprise was no longer needed. I clenched the tickets, about to rip them to shreds and toss them into the trash. Suddenly, a sarcastic voice came from behind me. Well, if it isn't the great salesman of the year. Still out here in the cold? Nowhere to take in a disobedient stray dog like you? I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Ethan, the bastard who had destroyed my project and my relationship. He skipped over to me, a smug grin on his face and a provocative look in his eyes. "No way, you weren't actually planning to take Miss Summers to a concert, were you?" he asked, his tone dripping with mockery. "Miss Summers is a hotshot CEO now, you know. The company's about to go public. And you're just a washed-up has-been who was blacklisted by the big firms 5 years ago. At your age, still trying to be romantic? Do you really think you're worthy of wasting Miss Summers' time?" He paused, then continued, "Anyway, I don't have time to waste on you." To cheer me up, Miss Summers booked a table at a Michelin star restaurant downtown. "I've got to go eat. You can just go to the concert by yourself." With that, he hopped cheerfully into Victoria's car. The wheels splashed a puddle of slush onto my down jacket. As I watched the tail lights disappear into the distance, I felt no anger at all. Instead, I let out a cold laugh. Those two idiots might be hopelessly stupid, but they were right about one thing. They really didn't have much time left. After all, by the time they realized the project they'd destroyed was the massive deal Victoria had staked her entire fortune on, it would be too late for everything. Chapter 3. I went home alone, wanting only to pack my things and part ways with Victoria for good. I opened the closet and began folding my clothes, placing them one by one into my suitcase. Halfway through, I walked over to the bedside table to clear out the drawer. I pulled it open. It was cluttered with miscellaneous items. My charger, one of Victoria's hair clips, and a few old movie ticket stubs. What were once sweet memories now just made me feel sick. Suddenly, a craft paper envelope in the corner caught my eye. I reached in, pulled it out, and opened it. Inside was a document, appointment letter. Project lead, Ethan Shaw. The signature was dated last week. In other words, even if Ethan hadn't sabotaged this project, Victoria had already planned to promote him, steal my credit, and replace me. So Victoria had planned everything all along. I was just a pawn in her game, to be discarded whenever she pleased. I laughed at my own foolishness and tossed the appointment letter into the trash. But in a way, this was better. I wondered what expression Victoria would have on her face when she found out that her IPO plan and her entire company had been destroyed by the very same Ethan she doted on. With that thought, I continued packing, finishing late into the night. Exhausted, I collapsed onto the bed and fell asleep instantly. The next morning, I was woken by a pressure on my back. I blearily opened my eyes to see Victoria smiling, massaging my back. "You're awake? How does it feel? Is the pressure okay? It doesn't hurt, does it?" For a moment, I was too confused to react, just staring at her blankly. All these years, I'd often worked late into the night for the company, and a herniated disc had become a chronic problem. Victoria had never cared about things like this before. Why the sudden change of heart? And where was Ethan? Shouldn't she be with her precious Ethan? When I nodded, Victoria's face lit up with joy. Great, I knew the acupressure massage I learned would work the next moment, she called out towards the door. "Ethan, I've tested it on Sincere, so now I don't have to worry about hitting the wrong pressure points and hurting you. Lie down on the living room sofa. I'll come massage your back. Now." Her words made me laugh in disbelief. So, in her eyes, I was just a guinea pig. Victoria was afraid of hurting her precious Ethan by pressing the wrong points, so she used me for practice first. I glanced into the living room. Ethan was lying on the sofa, a triumphant look on his face. "Oh, Sincere, I'm so sorry. I twisted my back working overtime recently," he said, feigning weakness, though his tone was full of provocation. "Vicky might have to help me out for a few days. You won't mind, will you? Working overtime?" He spent his workdays hiding in the break room playing games, only pretending to flip through files when Victoria appeared. He'd use the excuse of printing documents to sneak out before quitting time and would only return after 10, when Victoria was done with her work for the day. He always put on a show of being exhausted, making Victoria's heart ache for him. Only a fool like Victoria would fall for it. Thinking this, I shrugged, feigning indifference. "Of course I don't mind. I'm leaving anyway. You two can stay here as long as you want, massage each other as long as you want." Seeing the suitcase in my hand, Victoria froze, her brow furrowing. "Sincere, I'm just giving Ethan a massage. Do you have to be so sarcastic and threaten me by leaving?" Ethan chimed in with a timely cough, putting on a frail act. "Vicky, don't mind me. My body is fine. I can still pull all-nighters. You should go talk to Sincere. Your relationship is the most important thing." Ethan's pathetic, manipulative act was nauseating, but Victoria ate it right up and shot me an angry glare. "If he wants to go, let him. Let's see if he has the guts not to come back." I was speechless. I couldn't be bothered to argue with them anymore. I picked up my suitcase and walked out without looking back. As for those two fools, let them enjoy their little fantasy world before it all came crashing down. After leaving, I went straight to the company to file my resignation with HR. As soon as I walked in, I heard people gossiping about me. "Hey, look, Sincere's here to resign. Serves him right. He was always so strict. He deserves to be taken down a peg." Exactly. No people skills at all. What a failure. I couldn't help but sneer. I had personally trained most of these people. I was strict because the projects were critical and there was no room for error. I wanted them to grow quickly. Now it was suddenly my fault. I ignored these fence-sitters and walked straight to the young woman in HR. "I'm here to resign." The same woman who used to call me Sincere and suck up to me every day now deliberately dragged her feet, making the process as difficult as possible. It was evening by the time I finally completed all the paperwork. I then went downstairs to print out an itemized bill of all my expenses over the years, which I planned to mail to Victoria later. A breakup is a breakup, but the money that belonged to me, I wouldn't leave a single cent behind. As I was leaving the building, I ran into Victoria and Ethan. Victoria saw me and froze for a second, then put on an arrogant expression. Well, didn't someone swear they were breaking up with me? What, are you squatting outside the company waiting for me now? Ethan pointed to the envelope I had tucked inside my coat and feigned surprise. "Vicky, look, he's hiding something in his coat. Do you think Sincere could be trying to—" Before Ethan could finish, Victoria, as if she'd already figured it out, tossed her hair and smiled smugly. "Oh, I knew you were acting strange all day. So you were just playing hard to get, trying to surprise me, weren't you? You're so traditional. Who even writes love letters anymore?" She adjusted her hair and lifted her chin proudly. "Fine. Seeing as you've gone to all this trouble to confess your love and propose, I'll graciously give you another chance. You're allowed to read it out loud, but as I looked at her self-absorbed fantasy, I didn't say a word. I just threw the stack of bills right in her face. Psycho, wire me the money within 2 weeks, or you'll be hearing from my lawyer, Chapter 4. Staring at the bills in her hand, Victoria was stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Sincere, we've been together for so long, and you have the nerve to ask me for money?" Her face flushed red with anger, the carefully applied makeup unable to hide her distorted expression. Beside her, Ethan naturally didn't miss the chance to fan the flames, putting on a pained look as he played the voice of reason. "Sincere, you're my senior, and I've always respected you. But at a time like this, I have to say something. Vicky has been running this company all by herself for years, pouring all her money into it. I can't even imagine how much a woman has to sacrifice behind the scenes to support such a large company." He sighed dramatically, shaking his head as if his heart was breaking. "But not only do you not cherish and appreciate Vicky, you're actually trying to get money out of her. Sigh. If it were me, forget asking for money. I'd borrow money just to give it to Victoria to make up for the youth she's lost all these years. Listening to Ethan's flattery, I almost laughed out loud. What did the company's success have to do with Victoria? It was all my money and my effort behind the scenes when her company was on the verge of bankruptcy. I was the one who emptied my savings and even took out online loans to keep her capital chain from breaking. Over the years, I was the one who brought in all the business, and I was the one who built the sales team from the ground up. Did she really think a few networking events and a TV appearance would magically create a steady stream of clients and projects? In her dreams, before Ethan could finish his performance, Victoria eagerly cut him off. Forget it, Ethan. There's no point talking to a heartless bastard like him. For a money-grubbing person like him, just give him the money. She pulled a check from her purse and threw it at me, her tone dripping with contempt. It's just a little bit of money anyway. It's nothing. The top-tier project I've invested all my capital in is about to be finalized. The company will easily make billions. We might even go public in one fell swoop. By then your shares would have skyrocketed 10, even 20 times over. You would have been worth over 100 million, easy. But a pathetic, short-sighted fool like you, Sincere, will never reach those heights in this lifetime. Looking at Victoria, as proud as a peacock, I nearly burst out laughing. Even now she hadn't realized a critical fact. The top-tier project, into which she had poured nearly all of the company's resources, had already been destroyed by her precious Ethan and his photoshopped funeral picture. Beside me, Victoria saw my silence and waved her hand in disgust, as if I were dust on the bottom of her shoe. All right, take the money and get lost. Don't dirty my company and offend my eyes. But just then, a hurried set of footsteps approached. It was her partner for the project. Seeing him, Victoria's face lit up with a smile, and she shot me a triumphant glance. See? This is why some people are just not destined for wealth. It's not even the scheduled time to sign the contract, and he couldn't wait to come find us. We're about to be financially free. I bet some people have never seen so much money in their lives, right? I watched her foolish display and sneered. The idiot hadn't even noticed that the client and his entourage all looked grim, and she really thought they were here to sign a contract. Victoria, her face wreathed in smiles, eagerly approached them. Mr. Kingsley, thank you so much for coming in person despite your busy schedule. Since you're all showing such sincerity, I'll go ahead and sign right now. She beamed as she reached for the documents ready to sign. The gold pen twirled in her fingers, poised to land on the contract and begin the glorious new chapter of her life. But the next moment, after getting a clear look at the document Mr. Kingsley handed her, Victoria froze, because it wasn't a contract. It was a bright red court summons. Mr. Kingsley, did you perhaps grab the wrong document? This is a court summons, not a contract. The client sneered, his eyes filled with contempt. The wrong document. Miss Summers, you're quite the master of playing dumb. Doesn't your company enjoy photoshopping my funeral picture? You don't seem to have much respect for me, do you? From now on, the partnership between us is canceled according to the terms of our contract. Due to your active breach of our partnership, you and your company will be held liable for all losses resulting from the project's default and the damage to my reputation. Chapter 5. At his words, Victoria panicked, her face turning deathly pale. Photoshopped your funeral picture? Mr. Kingsley, you must be mistaken. How would we ever dare to do that? You're our most respected client. But faced with Victoria's feeble explanation, the client just laughed in anger. Oh, so this is how your company treats its most respected clients? By wishing them dead? Perfect. I'm a person who likes to return favors, so I brought a big gift for you too. Mr. Kingsley clapped his hands. Two men in black suits walked in, carrying a massive funeral wreath. In the center of the wreath was a large framed funeral photo of Victoria. The spectacle immediately drew a crowd of onlookers. What's going on here? Why is there a funeral photo? Tisk, tisk, young people these days. They're so brazen, doing things like this. Serves them right. A company like this deserves to go out of business. The onlookers chattered away. their laughter piercing Victoria's heart like needles. Her face flushed red and white with shame and fury. "Mr. Kingsley, don't you think you're going too far? There must be some misunderstanding," he just snorted in contempt. What misunderstanding could there be? And even if there were, is everyone in your company a complete imbecile? It's been days, and not a single one of you thought to offer an apology. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Indeed, what misunderstanding could there be? This was all the result of Victoria's own choices. The moment the incident occurred, I had prepared a response plan to fix the damage. It was Victoria who didn't care, who thought the project was irrelevant. Now, seeing me laugh, Victoria finally realized the gravity of the situation. She grabbed me, pulled me aside, and questioned me in a low, urgent voice. "Sincere, why didn't you say something sooner?" I rolled my eyes in exasperation and deliberately raised my voice. "I didn't say anything. You're the one who said you didn't care about this small project. You said the company was about to go public and that this little bit of money was nothing." My voice was loud, and everyone around us heard it clearly. Victoria's face turned an even uglier shade. She knew this time she was truly finished. Sure enough, the client had heard me too. He laughed with such fury that he actually started clapping. "A small project, is it? Well, I'll be. Miss Summers, your company certainly has a big appetite," he said sarcastically, his eyes filled with mockery. "You look down on our little project, do you? Well then, from now on, I don't think any other company will need to work with you either. You can just have fun playing by yourselves." The client's meaning was crystal clear. He was going to blacklist her. Seeing the city's most celebrated young female CEO suddenly facing a total industry boycott, the crowd gasped in unison. Victoria's face turned completely ashen. "Mr. Kingsley, please, let me explain." Victoria's voice trembled, and she was on the verge of tears. "I only just found out who the real culprit is, who it was that swapped the proposal." She shot a panicked, venomous glance at Ethan. Hearing this, I couldn't help but sneer. Here we go. The dog-eat-dog drama was finally about to begin. I watched her with great interest, waiting for her to throw Ethan to the wolves. However, in the next second, Victoria pointed a finger sharply at me. It was him, Sincere Clark. He was jealous of Ethan's talent, so he deliberately swapped the proposal to frame him. Chapter 6. Her words left me completely stunned. What kind of insane move was this? I stared at her, utterly bewildered, as if I were looking at an idiot. The surrounding crowd was also floored by the sudden twist. "You've got to be kidding me. Does this woman have no shame, right? It was clearly her own stupid mistake, and now she's trying to blame someone else?" I've seen it all now. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, but Victoria, as if she hadn't heard a thing, continued her tearful performance. "Mr. Kingsley, you have to believe me, it was really Sincere. He's always been jealous of Ethan, and wanted to take his place," she wept and wailed, her acting skills worthy of an Oscar. Looking at her hideous expression, I felt a surge of disgust. This woman would do anything to save her own skin. I took a deep breath, forcing down the rage building inside me. "Victoria, have you no shame?" My voice was as cold as ice. "You know exactly what the truth is." But Victoria shrieked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. I don't. It was you were just jealous of Ethan," she screamed hysterically, looking completely unhinged. The client watched this scene unfold, his brow furrowed. He was clearly getting drawn in by Victoria's performance. When he looked at me, a flicker of doubt entered his eyes. Seeing Victoria point the finger at me, Ethan immediately put on a mournful face, as if he had suffered a great injustice. He spoke in a choked, trembling voice. "Mr. Kingsley, Sincere has always had it out for me. He not only targets and suppresses me at the company, making me fetch him coffee and stealing my credit and achievements, but he puts me under immense pressure." He sniffled, his shoulders shaking, looking utterly pitiful, and he seemed to muster all his courage to continue. "When I found out that he had photoshopped your funeral picture, Mr. Kingsley, I went to him immediately and begged him to apologize to you, but he was completely unreasonable. He refused to apologize, saying he just wanted revenge on me and Vicky." Mr. Kingsley, you are a man of justice. You must see through this and get justice for me. He clutched his chest, looking heartbroken. Victoria then opportunistically pulled a stack of bills from her purse, crying a river of tears. Mr. Kingsley, look, this is the money he blackmailed me for. She handed the bills to the client, wailing. He threatened me. He said if I didn't give him the money, he would never apologize. Please don't be fooled by such a villain. The client took the bills, his face turning terrifyingly dark. He looked at me, his eyes filled with fury and contempt. So, it was you behind all this? His tone was glacial. You used me to get back at them? I, however, remained calm, a cold smirk playing on my lips. I looked at them, my eyes full of derision. And if I really did that, what would be the consequences? The client snorted. Is that even a question? With a single word from me, the entire industry would blacklist you. You'd never find a job again for the rest of your life. Hearing this, Victoria immediately added fuel to the fire. Mr. Kingsley, you must ruin him. We can't let him continue his evil ways. She glared at me, her eyes filled with venomous hatred. I just smiled. Victoria, are you that eager to see me utterly destroyed? My smile enraged her. You're about to die, and you're still smiling? I pulled a recording pen from my pocket and pressed the play button. I looked at Victoria, my smile widening. Victoria, I'm laughing at how naive you are. Chapter 7. A moment later, the recording pen began to play. The voices of Victoria and Ethan, plotting to frame me, filled the air, followed by Victoria's own insults directed at the client. Victoria's face instantly went white, as if all the blood had been drained from it. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She felt her world completely collapsing in that single moment. As the client listened to the recording, his expression grew darker and darker. He looked at Victoria with pure disgust and rage. Clearly, he had been used by her once again. And not just used, he had been played for a complete fool. He took a deep breath, trying to suppress his fury. Victoria, now that it has come to this, what else do you have to say? Ethan and Victoria's faces turned a ghastly white. Ethan tried to argue. Mr. Kingsley, let me explain. This recording is... The client cut him off with a roar. Explain? Do you think I'm an idiot? I'll remember you too. He pointed at Victoria, his voice dripping with ice. Especially you, Victoria Summers. I recall your company's cash flow has always been tight. From now on, no institution will give you a single dollar. Victoria panicked, grabbing the client's hand like a drowning woman clutching a lifeline, her tears smudging her makeup. Mr. Kingsley, I'm begging you, please give us one more chance. We truly know we were wrong, she pleaded humbly, a pathetic weeping mess. The client mercilessly shook her off, his brow furrowed in disgust. A chance? Did you give Sincere a chance? He turned to me, his eyes now filled with admiration. Young man, you're meticulous, brave, and resourceful. Very impressive. He pulled a card from his case and handed it to me. Send me your proposal later. Come work for my company. I took the card, my heart leaping with joy. This was the industry leader. Of course I would be thrilled to work there. Victoria and Ethan's faces turned green, as if they'd swallowed flies. After the client left, Victoria grabbed my arm, her tone urgent. Sincere, you knew all along, didn't you? Why didn't you say so sooner? Her eyes were red, a hint of pleading in them. Quick, think of something we can still save the company. This is our baby. I let out a cold laugh and shook her hand off. Now that there's trouble, it's our company again? My voice was frigid as I mercilessly exposed her hypocrisy. Are you confused? Did you forget we already broke up and you gave the shares to Ethan? I glanced at Ethan, whose face was ashen. Go ask your precious Ethan to think of a solution. Victoria bit her lip, her eyes growing redder. After all these years together, you can really bear to let it all go? Ethan quickly chimed in, trying to guilt-trip me. That's right, Sincere. You and Vicky were together for so long. Can you really stand to see her lose everything? I was speechless. We had broken up. What did any of this have to do with me? I already said we broke up. Why are you coming to me? Go to your precious Ethan. I'm sure he has a plan. With that, I turned and left, not bothering to give them another glance. Victoria stared at my back, seething. Sincere Clark, you'll come crawling back to me one day. I paid her threat no mind, my thoughts filled with anticipation for my new job. The next day, however, I was stopped by security at the entrance of the new company. I'm sorry, sir, you can't go in. Why not? I asked, confused. I'm here for my first day. The guard scratched his head, looking troubled. Well, I'm not sure. You should probably ask Mr. Kingsley. I found Mr. Kingsley, but he looked at me like he'd seen a ghost, acting evasive. Sincere, just check the news. With that, he hurried away, as if afraid of getting into trouble. Completely bewildered, I pulled out my phone. The moment I saw the top trending news, I froze. Chapter 8. Trending. 1. Modern-day scumbag dumps long-term girlfriend right before company IPO. I clicked on it and almost smashed my phone. In the video, Victoria was crying her eyes out, her makeup a mess, looking for all the world like a pitiful woman abandoned by a scumbag. The video was cleverly edited, showing only clips of me being good to her. Candlelit dinners, walks on the beach, all kinds of holiday gifts. For a second, I almost believed it myself. Then the scene cut to me coldly breaking up with her and demanding my shares back. Paired with a sappy, emotional soundtrack, it was the melodrama of the year. The comments section exploded. This guy is the worst, dumping his girlfriend right before the IPO? Does he have a conscience? My heart breaks for this poor woman. That scumbag deserves to rot. People like him should be drawn and quartered. A stampede of a million wild animals thundered through my mind. Her talent for twisting the truth was wasted. She should have been a director. What was even more disgusting was that the video featured several of my old subordinates. They faced the camera, righteously accusing me of being ungrateful, talking about how good Victoria had been to me, and how I'd kicked her to the curb the moment the company ran into trouble. I was shaking with rage. That pack of ungrateful wolves. Victoria must have promised them the world. After all, if the company really went under, they'd have a hard time finding new jobs at the end of the year. I finally understood. Victoria was trying to completely destroy me. Soon, my personal information was leaked online. My phone was blown up with calls, and a flood of abusive text messages poured in. Even worse, Victoria had accidentally leaked my family's information. My parents' phone was also ringing off the hook, with people screaming all sorts of vile things at them. My sister, still in high school, was being pointed at and whispered about by her classmates. She was now too scared to even go to school. I gripped my phone so tightly my nails dug into my palm. You don't go after family, Victoria. You've gone too far. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. The priority now was to gather evidence and sue Victoria. I grabbed my jacket, ready to go see a lawyer. As I reached the door, I saw Ethan standing there, my brow furrowed, and I grabbed him by the collar. What are you doing here now? But Ethan just gave me a mysterious smile. What if I told you? I'm here to help you. Chapter 9. Hearing this, I was so surprised that I let go of him. Ethan helping me? Had the world turned upside down? Sensing my confusion, Ethan smiled and said, "Sincere, we're both smart people, so I'll cut to the chase. In my opinion, Victoria's days are numbered, even if she's using public opinion to make a temporary comeback." Ethan paused, a shrewd glint in his eye. She might be able to delay the blacklisting from the client, but she can't escape it forever. I instantly understood what he was getting at. Victoria was at the end of her rope. Even if she managed to ruin my reputation, it wouldn't change the fact that her company was doomed. I sneered. So, you plan to betray Victoria and side with me? Ethan chuckled softly. It's so much easier talking to a smart person. He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. I have proof that Victoria slandered and framed you. He dangled the USB drive in his hand. As soon as I post this online, her story will fall apart. I wasn't excited. Instead, I asked calmly, "And what's the price?" Ethan's greedy eyes scanned me from head to toe before he let out a cold laugh. "Simple. You got a big chunk of money from Victoria, didn't you? Plus the share repurchase will be a considerable sum. He held up one finger. Give me $10 million and we'll call it even, I sneered inwardly. He had a big appetite. $10 million was nearly all of my savings. I didn't answer directly. Instead, I asked him, Victoria trusts you so much, loves you so much. Are you really willing to abandon her? Ethan curled his lip in disdain, his tone contemptuous. Her. She's nothing but a washed-up old hag. You really think I like her? Buddy, with your $10 million, I can have any woman I want. Hearing his answer, I smiled. All right. I agree. Ethan looked smug, about to hand over the evidence. But in the next second, my tone shifted, and I smirked at something over his shoulder. However, the person behind you, Victoria, might not agree to that. Chapter 10. At my words, the smile on Ethan's face froze. Then he scoffed. Nice try. Victoria is probably swamped at the office right now. Why would she be here? He looked utterly dismissive, as if I were telling some ridiculous fairy tale. I laughed to myself. This fool really thought he had everything figured out. The next second, the cold tip of a fruit knife pressed against Ethan's lower back. So, Ethan, is this your reason for betraying me? Victoria's voice was as cold as if it had come from the depths of hell. Ethan froze completely. He turned his head slowly, looking at Victoria behind him in utter disbelief. How did you get here? He stammered, his eyes wide with terror. I couldn't help but laugh. He seemed to have forgotten that Victoria was cut from the same cloth as him. He wasn't the only one capable of such a scheme. Now that they'd run into each other, it was dog eat dog. This was going to be a good show. Victoria ignored Ethan's question, pressing the knife deeper into his back. Ethan, you still haven't answered me. Did you ever love me? Her voice trembled with a hint of desperation. Ethan panicked and tried to explain. Vicky, listen to me. It's not what you think. Of course I love you. I've always loved you. He babbled incoherently, his eyes darting around, unable to meet hers. But Victoria wasn't listening. Her eyes were bloodshot as she pressed the knife in harder. You're still lying. If you really loved me, why would you betray me? Why would you sell me out for money? Her string of questions stabbed into Ethan's heart like daggers. Ethan snapped, snatching the fruit knife from Victoria's hand. You crazy witch, I tried to be nice. But you wouldn't listen. You want to die. Is that it? If you're going to ruin me, then no one gets a happy ending. I'll kill you both. He had completely shed his disguise, his eyes filled with madness. He lunged, plunging the knife into Victoria, once, twice, 3 times. Blood gushed out, staining Victoria's clothes red. Panting heavily, Ethan turned his savage gaze on me. He raised the blood-soaked knife and advanced, 1 step at a time. But I wasn't scared at all, because I had already called the police. The next moment, sirens shattered the night. Several officers burst in and quickly subdued Ethan. One of them fired his weapon, hitting Ethan. Ethan collapsed dead on the spot. After leaving the police station, I went straight home. Victoria was taken to the hospital for treatment. For a while after that, we had almost no contact. Until one day I came home from work to find a full meal, 4 dishes and a soup on my table. Confused, I looked toward the kitchen, and I saw Victoria cooking. I stood there stunned, because I clearly remembered that in our 7 years together, Victoria had never once set foot in the kitchen. Just because she said she didn't like the smell of cooking oil, I had insisted on doing all the cooking, never complaining once, even when my allergic rhinitis flared up. Seeing me, Victoria managed to smile. You're back just in time. Eat while it's hot. She smiled as if nothing had ever happened, but I didn't respond. I just looked at her coldly. How did you get into my house? Please leave. Hearing my cold tone, Victoria broke down. She threw her arms around me, her eyes red. Sincere, I admit I made a mistake, but I really do still love you. I have nothing to do with Ethan anymore. Please come back. Give me one more chance, please. I just sneered and pointed at the food on the table. Victoria, if you really loved me, you would know. I have a stomach condition. I can't eat spicy food. Hearing my words, Victoria froze. She stood there with her arms outstretched, the smile on her face stiff, her eyes filled with shock and panic. I shook my head, my heart completely dead to her. This was what she called love? She didn't even know I had a stomach condition. In the end, she didn't truly love me. She was just unwilling to lose the sense of security I provided by being her workhorse. Even my current stomach problems were a result of the years I had spent working myself to the bone, pulling all-nighters to win her family's approval and give her a better life. Back then, Victoria wasn't like this. She had truly loved me. When she learned I had a severe ulcer, she cried inconsolably, blaming herself, saying she shouldn't have put me under so much pressure. I didn't think much of it then. I just smiled, comforted her, and dreamed of marrying her, having children, and growing old together. Thinking back now, I was so naive. In just 7 short years, she had grown tired of me. Even if this time she was truly repentant, had truly realized her mistake, what about the next 7 years, or the next 14? Could she hold on to that pure feeling and see it through to the end? But that question would never be answered, and it held no meaning, because I would never forgive her. At that moment, Victoria also seemed to realize how absurd she was being. She hurriedly scraped the food from the table into the trash. Her eyes were red and her voice was choked with sobs like a small child who had done something wrong. "I'm sorry, Sincere, I didn't know you had a stomach condition." I cut her off, my voice frigid. "What are you trying to say? That it was just a moment of carelessness? That you'll change?" "Victoria, it's too late, and I'm tired of your lies." At my words, Victoria dropped to her knees before me. "No, Sincere, I really know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance, please. Please, Sincere, I can't live without you." She cried a river of tears, but I was unmoved. "You did nothing wrong, Victoria." I looked down at her and said flatly, "You just realized you're finished. Instead of worrying about our relationship, you should be worrying about how you're going to pay off your debts." With that, I turned and left, ignoring her cries behind me. Later, Victoria's company went bankrupt due to a broken capital chain and was seized. I even heard that she herself, unable to pay her debts, was sold to a ring overseas where she lived a life worse than death. As for me, I used the project proposal that Victoria had tossed aside to make a comeback. I became a project lead and soared to the peak of my career. For the rest of my life, my future was nothing but bright. The end.